I'm annoyed. No, let me recalibrate that, redefine that. I'm pissed off by what is happening around me, by what the events that I actually witness, whether domestic events or things in Europe or further afield. So, this YouTube episode is a bit of a ramble. On the one hand, it's pleasurable, and on the other hand, it's a bit aimless, because I thought that I wanted to share with you some of those ideas on three or four of the topics that annoyed me over the past few days. So do bear with me, and perhaps you will find some kernel of truth or something that might help you think, mull over what I'm saying, food for thought, as I constantly and tediously repeat in every one of my YouTube episodes. The first one is on what is happening here, the soap opera in our own country, in the United Kingdom, with relation to the Prime Minister. Who is our Prime Minister? Do we have a Prime Minister? Or, as one of the sketches on social media showed, 10 Downing Street is basically an Airbnb for short lets or short stays. It's a mess. It's really, really a mess. And it takes me back only a few weeks, maybe month, 2 months ago, when I was desperately trying to share with some of you my thoughts about the hustings that were taking place between the two finalists for Conservative Party leader in the UK, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. Now, let me say that I don't know either one of them. I've never met them. I've never spoken with them. I've never had a bite with them. I haven't even been in the same room when they have spoken. Friends I know, lawyers and other constituents have actually been in their presence. I haven't. So my thoughts, my impressions, my reactions were basically the way I was reacting to the events that were unfolding in front of me. And one of the things that I said in one of my written bubbles was that my grandfather, many, many years ago, my maternal grandfather, had taught me, and he was a very rich man, he taught me that the best way to spend money is to make sure, first of all, that you have it under your mattress or in the bank. Anything else, if you start spending money like we do today, it's basically a credit society. If we do that, we're going to hit a few bumpers. And I said that what Liz Truss was saying didn't make sense to me. Now, as I said, I didn't know either one of the two leading candidates, so I wasn't actually trying desperately to focus on how brilliant Rishi Sunak is and how unbrilliant Liz Truss could be. But I was just trying to make some common sense commentaries, observations, call it analyses if I want to be haughty about it, on what happens. And lo and behold, a tiny, 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 minuscule number of Conservative Party members, largely in the South, largely white, largely older, decided no, they wanted Liz Truss. They didn't want Rishi Sunak because she reminded them of Margaret Thatcher. She spoke their language. She said what they wanted to hear rather than what they needed to hear. And she became Prime Minister 6 weeks. And now she's gone. Next week, we'll have another Prime Minister. Why would we have another Prime Minister? Because whoever that person is would become Conservative Party leader and automatically become a Prime Minister. And chances are, unless there is a coronation, unless all Tory party MPs would congregate around one candidate, it's going to go to the party members again. That tiny, tiny, tiny fraction, 0 point something percent of the overall population of the UK, is going to choose yet again another prime minister for our country. When I said that Liz Truss is not, in my opinion, the favorite candidate a few weeks ago, I was told by some people, you don't understand anything. You weren't born here. You don't have that sense. Nativism? I don't know. That sense of what needs to be done politically. That the party members were squarely behind Liz Truss because she would do a brilliant job. Now we're told that the party members have turned against her and they're going to choose somebody else. And who are the contenders? I don't know, because next Monday, in a couple of days' time, 3 days' time after the weekend, we should know who are the leading candidates who've secured the support of 100 MPs in Parliament from their own party. Rishi Sunak, possibly. Penny Mordaunt, possibly. And wait, here is the clangor. Boris Johnson is already making noises, and his friends, and he has more than one friend in Parliament. It's not only Nadine Dorries that supports him, or Jacob Rees-Mogg that supports him. There are others as well who think he's the best thing since sliced bread, and that he is the one who should come back because he will save the Conservative Party from a wipeout in the general election in 2 years' time. Why in 2 years' time plus? Because there aren't going to be any elections now, because Labour, the Lib Dems and SNP will not be able to force a general election at this moment, which to me would have been the ideal way of sorting this out. But then, what do I know? I wasn't born here. The party members are going to now choose somebody else. And Boris Johnson is trying already to win over Rishi Sunak. He's trying to get the 100 MPs support. And guess what? In the discombobulated, dysfunctional political system that we are facing today in this country, the 6th or 7th most powerful economy in the world, what could happen? We could see in a week's time Boris Johnson returning to 10 Downing Street. At least he's familiar with the furniture, and more pointedly, he's familiar with the curtains that they changed during his tenure earlier on. Now, why am I expressing such reservations about this? Because Boris Johnson is still under investigation. Is he going to become prime minister again whilst an investigation goes on? And what if the investigation says that he lied? Are we going to go through the whole loop again? What is it that makes Boris Johnson palatable today when a couple of months ago or so, he had become persona non grata at 10 Downing Street, and he had left with abject disgrace and humiliation his position, his post, his office as prime minister. But it's not only a question of the investigation. It's not only a question of, can a leopard lose its spots? Can Boris Johnson change, become less mendacious, become more truthful, become more cooperative? That is not the only thing. For me, the real bugging issue in all of this is that this tiny, tiny minority of people are supposed to choose our prime minister. Now, when the Conservative Party is challenged by this, as James Harding from Tortoise, a wonderful news website, journalism that is truthful, did, they wanted a judicial review as to, hold on, can they elect a prime minister? The answer from the Conservative Party was that this is a private organization. It is not subservient to public rules and regulations. Hold on, but this membership, this organization was set up to choose a Conservative Party leader. It was never meant to be the voting selecting tool for our prime ministers in this country. Where is the sense of democracy when 0. whatever % of people choose our prime minister? Where is the oversight? Is there any oversight? Are we sure who is voting? Are we sure the online voting next week, if that happens and we get to that stage, is it going to work? Or are we going to be hacked? Or are there going to be lots and lots of cheating? At the end of the day, I settled, I told you I wasn't born in this country, but I settled in this country willingly, by choice. Not because I had to take a boat like those miserable poor refugees who are desperately trying to flee their own countries. No. I was living in France, and you and I, no matter what you think of France, would agree that it is not a country that is awful enough for you to want to run away from. I chose to come and do my law degree and my postgrad law studies in this country because I liked this country, because I liked its culture, because I liked its people. I didn't necessarily like the food at the time, but now we've become more cosmopolitan. And yet, this country is going fast down the road of cantankerous populism. And I think all I can say, regardless of what happens in a week's time, it could be Rishi Sunak, it could be Penny Mordaunt, it could even be Ben Wallace if he comes off the fence and decides one way or another what he wants to do. Or it could be Boris Johnson. I have no say whatsoever in what is going to be the future prime ministerial influence of this country, at least for the next 2+ years until a general election, unless we have yet another soap opera because we make the wrong choices. So I really, really hope that Sir Brady and the 1922 committee, I really hope that people will think wisely before they tick the box or support this or that candidate. Not because of me, because of the welfare of the whole country that we're supposed to be leveling up. Being a politician is not any job. It's not like being a lawyer, an accountant, a vet, a plumber, a bus driver. It is a vocation. It's a public office. You give of yourself for the country, not only for yourself. And now all these people who are saying, oh, let Boris Johnson come, because if he comes, we have a better chance of being re-elected in 2 years' time, and we can keep our jobs. Is that what politics is all about? In this country, I'm not talking about other countries now. Just think about it. Moving on very, very quickly. Sorry, I rambled on, as I said, far longer than I thought I would. Let me just say a couple of things. The European Parliament awarded the Sakharov Prize to the Ukrainian people. Good on them. The Ukrainian people have been going through a hellish period of 8 or so months with the unlawful war that's been waged against them by Russia and all the complications of that war. But double standards are sometimes too painful, too scathing, too bruising to ignore. I'm going to go to one of my favorite neighborhoods, Palestine. The Palestinians have been fighting bravely, boldly, patiently for decades to get rid of a sinister apartheid-like occupation that is getting worse by the year. Their rights are being damaged and gobbled up more and more. Israeli successive governments are becoming more and more right-wing. Settlers are becoming more rooted into settler colonialism and into this rampant disregard to anything to do with the law, rule of law, anything to do with decency, going around pulling out olive trees, beating up Palestinians in their farmlands, and going onto the esplanade of the Dome of the Rock, doing everything they want to do, irrespective of the Palestinian population, the owners of those places. And what does the government do? Sends the army, not to protect the victim, but to protect the victimizer. So in a sense, whilst the Ukrainians merit, and good luck to them, for their Sakharov Prize, if the European Union were not so bewitched by just one conflict because of its geopolitical implications, and really gave regard to human rights, which has been its mantra for years and years on end, they would have thought of the Palestinian people, because the award was given to the people. Why do the Ukrainians deserve it and the Palestinians don't? Think about it. And finally, even more quickly, rambled on at the beginning, shorter in the middle, even much shorter and concise at the end. The World Cup is going to happen next month. It's almost upon us in a month's time. And I keep hearing time and time again comments, articles about how Qatar is infringing human rights, how Qatar is doing that, how Qatar is not doing that, how it doesn't have the infrastructure, how it is buying supporters from Europe to come for an all-paid holiday during the games in order to fill the stadiums, how it is responsible for this, that, and the other, how it does not subscribe to the LGBTQI standards that we perhaps have in Europe and the West, how the people who are going to attend are mostly Qataris, then Saudis, then Americans, hardly any Europeans want to go, etc., etc. Okay. There is a lot in Qatar. It's a tiny state. It's growing up. It's done remarkably well in 10 years to completely turn over its infrastructure in order to prepare itself for this World Cup. Yes, but it's an Arab country, and it's a Muslim country, which has its culture, its norms, its standards. We can't go there and have a can of beer and drink wherever we want and then toss the can in the street. We can't go around smooching and kissing each other in the public thoroughfares. We cannot do this and that. It's the culture, it's the norm. So is there a tinge of racism alongside the facts that we're being fed? I'm not here to defend Qatar. I'm not here to defend the GCC countries. I'm not here to defend the FIFA or the World Cup award, why it was given to Qatar and not to the United States. All I'm saying is, let's call a spade a spade. Deep down in your heart of hearts, don't you think there is a little bit of that? niggling away as you sort of say, oh, they do this, oh, they do that, oh, they're not worthy of this award, they don't merit to host the World Cup. We're not going to show it on public, on TVs in public squares. I'm a little bit uneasy about that. And I conclude by saying, as an Armenian, I'm worried about events in the Southern Caucasus, about what is happening between Armenia and Azerbaijan, between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. With all these meetings in Prague, in Astana, in Moscow, elsewhere, everybody is sort of coming in to try and say it should be done this way, it should be done that way. It's the existence of a small country, Armenia, amidst turmoil and volatile tensions in the region. So I'm not going to pontificate. I'm not going to say more because you'll throw back at me the fact, oh, you're Armenian, we can't expect anything more from you. All I would say, go and read up a little bit if you're interested in that neck of the woods. And on that, I basically say, good luck to us, to you and to me and to us all, in a world that has, I think, gone astray. It's like one of those atoms that has left its orbit. Is it me, or do you feel the same? Or am I beginning to show my age? Take care.